The Promise, a Hmong folktale ghost story. Once upon a time there was a couple. They were madly in love. Her name was Nkauj and his name was Jay. They lived in separate villages and it would take Jay 3 nights and 3 days to get to Nkauj village. They always wanted to be together, but Jay was still working to save money and Nkauj didn't want to leave her parents yet. So they spent as much time as they could together. There was misunderstanding within the country, so Jay was recruited to go to war and fight for his country. He was sad that he would be leaving his girlfriend and family behind. He didn't know how long he would be gone and if he would even survive the war. He only hoped for the best. Before he went to war, he went to see Nkauj. Nkauj made him promise her that no matter what happened, he would come back for her and love her forever. Nkauj promised that she would stay faithful and wait for him. Jay promised he would come back to marry her, and then they said their goodbyes. Finally, 5 years later, the war ended, and Jay returned home. He was happy to see his family and friends. On a visit to one of his friend's house, his friend's sister asked him about life and how he was doing. Jay told her that he was about to leave to marry Nkauj and bring her back to the village. He didn't know how to tell Jay that Nkauj and her whole village had been killed during the war, so she told him that she heard Nkauj had gotten married. Very upset, Jay ran off to Nkau's village to see if this was true. When he arrived, the village was empty and quiet. He approached Nkau's house and was relieved to see she was sitting outside and had been waiting for him. He was so happy to see her. When he finally caught his breath and sat down to talk, he wanted to know everything that was new about her and how she was doing. He wanted to speak with her parents. Nkauj said her village was empty because the villagers went to the garden to protect their plants from birds. It was getting dark, so they went inside. When they got inside, Jay asked Nkauj to light the fire. She did just that, but when she sat down facing away from him. Jay asked her why she was sitting away from him and thought it was strange. He told her he wanted to see her beautiful face. She told him her back was cold and she was trying to keep it warm. So he sat on the couch and asked her to come cuddle with him, but she refused and said she would just sit next to him because she was shy. As he sat next to her and the fire flickered, he noticed that her skin and face were rotten. Maggots were coming out of her eyes, and she had missing pieces of skin on her legs and arms. She had a stench that smelled like left out raw meat, and she felt as cold as ice. He asked when the villagers would be back, and she said she didn't know, had been gone for a long time. That was when he knew she was dead. He had to plan his escape, but he had to be careful. Finally, he saw his chance and told her he had to use the bathroom. Doug wanted to go with him, but he said he was shy, so he gave her one end of his waist belt and told her to pull to assure he was still there. So Jay went outside, but instead of using the bathroom, he tied his belt onto the bench and ran. All of a sudden, it got really quiet, and Doug decided to go check up on him. To her surprise, he was gone. She gave a loud scream and ran after him. All night long, Jay ran in circles while Nraug chased him. Jay was so scared and didn't know what to do. He just kept running as fast as he could, but he could still hear her calling his name. Jay! Jay! Kanya katu! Kachihukulayo! All he could think about was getting away and getting back to his village. He wished he would have listened to the rumors and just stayed away. Finally, he couldn't hear her calling his name anymore, and so he stopped to catch his breath. He didn't know she was right behind him. When she got a hold of him, Jay tried to tell her to let him go because they were no longer living in the same world. But she told him she kept her promise and he needed to keep his. Now Jay knew that she would never leave him. He was scared to death, but in the moment he was able to muster up some courage and break loose from her again. It was too dark and he was lost, so Jay decided to hide from her and waited until morning. When the sun came up, he finally found his way and ran back to his village. He told his parents what had happened, so they did a ritual for him that changed his name so that Doug wouldn't know where he was. No one was to ever call him Jay ever again to prevent her from finding him. He was to stay in the house for 3 days. On day 29, his best friend came and asked him to come hang out. At first, Jay said no because the 30 days had not passed yet, so the birds and bees would still know his real name. Jay contemplated his decision, but thought it was close enough and didn't think one day would make a difference. So Jay decided he would go hang out with his friends. When he opened the door, there was no sign of Zug, so he felt he was finally safe. As he walked closer and closer to the door, the moment he took one step out of his house, Zug appeared. "There you are," she whispered. Before he could turn back into the house, she grabbed him and took him with her. They would be together forever. There's a saying, don't make promises and set a time and date to be with your loved one, or you will end up like Zug and Jay, where even though they were in two different worlds and Zug was dead, she was able to wait for Jay and take him with her to the underworld.